we turn our focus to the role of institutions in the national development system in the creation of funding and financing instruments to leverage the performance of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in Brazil. To this debate, we invite Márcia, Maia, President of AGN, Eugênia, Melo, André Godoy, Director of Finep, Luciano Ribeiro, Superintendent of Cooperative Center Sicoob, Bruno, Pena de Sousa, Director of BNB, and Caetano Minchillo, Coordinator of Capitalization and Financial Services with Sebrae. As a moderator for this panel, we invite the Professor of FGV, Francisco Gaetani. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with you today in such an important event, at such an important moment, with a historically important theme. I remember I was in a cooperation mission in Sweden, and I visited the innovation agency in Sweden, and I asked about financing of big Swedish companies which are very active multinationals, and I was told we only support SMEs, that the bigs do not actually need us. And this is my provocative thought to kick off the works today. I will give the floor to Márcia, Maia, President of AGN, our first speaker. Good afternoon. I would like to greet all of the members of this panel, and especially special thanks to ABDE on behalf of the first female president of ABDE, who's here with us, and congratulations for in organizing all of this event. I'll try to use well my 7 minutes in talking initially about the leveraging of microcredit in Brazil, especially in Rio Grande do Norte, where our development agency is based, and I am also the first woman to preside this development agency. We have a microcredit program, which is the strongest program that we have, and we have to highlight what we managed to accomplish in this 3 years of mandate. First, the importance of democratizing access to credit. When I got to AGN, we only had 3 conventional lines of credit servicing trade, industry, and services. So we tried to democratize the access to credit, expanding it to segments that never had access, have never had access in the past. So family farming, handicraft, fishing, solidarity economy, art, culture, tourism, and other lines. We also created credit for youth and young entrepreneurs. I would like to highlight a few points of these 2 lines of credit we've created to service family farming and traditional fishing in Rio Grande do Norte. We have a line of credit which was built with the segment. We've heard from the farmers and cooperatives of family farming. We have talked to the secretariat that was created in the management of Governor Fátima Bezerra, which is the secretariat of family farming. So they work with us very closely. As we've heard from all of these players, we managed to build microcredit line for family farmers that could meet the needs of this public policy, because it's actually a public policy directed to this segment. And we were very much concerned with the whole virtuous cycle of public policy, which begins in production with the technical assistance of EMATER, which is a rural and technical support institution, and Sebrae, which was the secretariat that was created. And in addition to production, access to credit through the development agency of Rio Grande do Norte, and the commercialization, because we also leverage the production, which is guaranteed. So part of the product is guaranteed by the state when they approved a law that guarantees a percentage of public procurement to these products that come from family farming. They provide food for hospitals, schools, community restaurants, and so on. And it's important to say that all of these credit lines, such as family farming and traditional fishing, are in line with the SDGs, to the extent we manage to fight rural poverty, hunger, economic sustainable activity, because in family farming we have a very low environmental impact. Gender equality, so it's important to say that we have women leading these segments in family farming. We also have an example, just Dona Cícera. She's a lady in a settlement in the city of Dom Jesus, and with credit from our development agency, she managed to purchase equipment which allowed her to improve the quality of the production of her vegetables and that she farms. And it's also important to mention income generation in the partnership with the communities. And all of this work is made in Quilombola communities as well as in settlements. In the most vulnerable populations and communities that didn't have access to credit in the past. So AGN is reaching locations that have never had access to credit or banking systems. One other important product is the microcredit line for fishing. So in Rio Grande do Norte, in our state, we have about 400 kilometers of coastline. However, the fishing that we're supporting is not just in the coastline, but also in cities that have some rivers and dams and tanks for fish breeding, and we are also providing microcredit for traditional fishing.
A very important activity in Rio Grande do Norte, and including socially and economically these segments. Fishery in Rio Grande do Norte goes from generation to generation. I had the opportunity to meet a grandparent, a father, and a grandson who work with fishing, artisan fishing, who were contemplated with credit. And so we are seeing not only the economic development, but also social development, because we don't foster only businesses, we foster people. These are two experiences that are here for all who want to learn more about it. This is what we want to point out, because our time is very short. So I can come back and complement in my final remarks. Thank you, Márcia. We'll give the floor to Diogo, Superintendent of BRB. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to greet Márcia, André, Luciano, Bruno, Professor Francisco, and thank you for inviting BRB to talk about our actions in microcredit. When the pandemic began, the bank, with its social role of development and concern with the city, we launched two programs, the Supera and the Acredita, basically providing better conditions for working capital, extending deadlines, and so on, to help companies go through uncertainty. So these programs, both for natural persons and companies, were responsible for 8.2 billion in credit here in Brasília. Of this amount, specifically for companies, which is our focus here, we released 1.7 billion, representing a growth of over 400% of the credit portfolio of the bank. So in the success of the bank with these two programs, we recently launched a program called Avança DF, along the same lines of the two previous programs, with a view to leveraging production of companies and providing sustainability to businesses. And so we extended working capital to 76 months and also grace period of 12 months, and we reduced our interest rates as well, and so we're working. So these are very favorable conditions for the development of companies so that we can have the same success that we had in the previous programs. We also launched our BRB Pay machine so that we can help small entrepreneurs with, at very low rates and favorable credit rates. And so what is our concern? To ensure sustainability for businesses with grace periods so that companies can go through this period. And so after the pandemic we have the war, and so it seems that we are unable to leave this loop, and so this is a concern that the bank has launching this new program. And if you want to know more, you can go to our branches, which are all prepared and to welcome you, and also our website. So access to the program Avanca DF. So specifically on microcredit, the bank has released 19.5 million in funding so that we can provide microcredit, and the average ticket of these operations 2,000 reais, and we are able to reach around 10 million people, both natural persons and companies. And so we have credit lines for working capital, for those who want to reinforce cash, and also for works and acquisition of machines and renovations. And so we can do both, and we can, there's no need to present a project. You can just download the app, and people can register easily on the app. The consultant will get in touch, and also we are able to work with the solidarity group and 3 or 4 people, so ensuring sustainability and ensuring easier release of the funds. And so the bank from the beginning of the pandemic sought to ensure sustainability. So that's all about our commitment with the population of the federal district. Our branches are available, and we increased our participation and fund for microcredit with specific characteristics, and also agility. So we are able to do this all through the app. No need to go physically to a branch, and so that allows us to decrease costs. These are the main actions of the bank to support micro and small companies, especially microcredit. Thank you. Very interesting. Let us hear now Dr. André Godoy, director of Finep. I had the pleasure to work with him when I belonged to the administration board of the organization. Hello, good afternoon. I'd like to greet Professor Francisco Gaetani and Márcia Maia, President of the Rio Grande do Norte Development Agency, Luciano Ribeiro, Superintendent of Sicoob, Bruno Pena, Director of the Bank of the Northeast, and Godoy of BRB, and Caetano from Sebrae, with whom we have important partnerships. It's a pleasure to be here at the ABD Development Forum 2022, an important moment for discussion of development, sustainable development, and to talk about the role of small companies in facing these challenges. And so there is no better time to talk about challenges and adversities than this year. As mentioned, we first had a health crisis all over the world, and then a climate crisis, and now an inflationary crisis, global inflationary crisis. and humanitarian crisis in Europe. Today, the biggest concern for Brazilians is employment. It's not a concern only in Brazil. In developing countries, especially with the massive use of artificial intelligence, this tends to be aggravated, especially in less skilled activities. Small and medium companies play a key role in requalification of our economy and employability of our population. ABDE is one of the institutions, and all its member institutions has been redirecting and supporting very strongly our small and medium companies so that they can increasingly work on behalf of society and generate quality of life for the population. I would like to talk about the role of innovation of small and medium companies and the role of the whole development system and Finep that I am representing here, and how this can effectively support unemployment reduction. Gaetano can speak better than me. Today, small companies represent more than 60% of formal jobs in Brazil. And small and innovative small companies are the best solution to increase productivity in the Brazilian economy and to open new qualified, skilled jobs so that we can increase levels and salaries. And so Finep has been redirecting, Professor Gaetano, in response to your comment. Finep redirected its efforts to try to address what we call market failure, supporting those who most need it. So I am saying very comfortably and proudly that we have been redirecting efforts towards smaller companies and more innovative companies. Finep is a public agency linked to the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, financing basic research, universities, and from rare diseases to advanced materials. And with a very sound recent focus on small companies, both traditional ones and innovative ones, what we call startups. So just some figures here. 2020 data, potential unicorns, 20% were financed by Finep. So these are companies that are worth more than $1 billion, small companies that are worth more than $1 million. So we financed almost 1,000 startups. That's a considerable number, through 5 programs, one exclusively targeting innovative women. And that was discussed in the previous panel. So Finep is startup with investments of 1 million reais for each startup, and programs in partnership with all the states for new startups, with over 180 million for technological hubs with innovative small companies. And so just to give you an idea, this year, 170 million, this is more than what was done in the past 20 years. It's a lot of resources for the structuring of technology hubs. And we were going to have a huge amount of resources with the focus on small and medium companies. And so these funds are the biggest economic subvention of the Scientific and Technological Fund. And I also want to mention that the whole of ABDE, all the members of ABDE and Finep included, with programs for, well, over 780 projects supported, 2 billion delivered. So it's great to be here sharing this panel with Sebrae. We recently announced a partnership of 1 million reais for small companies. Credit, this is directed credit, targeted credit, with all the support and capillarity conferred by Sebrae and Finep's expertise in innovation. So very soon, Gaetano, I will anticipate some announcements here. So we will launch Finep and Sebrae together, the first innovation award in Brazil, and this is going to be a step to ensure guarantees and liquidity. So I'd like to conclude now and thanking you all. Thank you. Thank you, André. Great to hear you again. My regards to everyone at Finep. We're going to hear Luciano Ribeiro from Sicoob, also online. Good afternoon, Professor Francisco, panel colleagues. It's great to share this panel here at the ABDE event. And after hearing André, we can see the very broad scope of this issue. But I'd like to point out how we have cross-cutting elements among the institutions in this panel. So development banks and partner institutions with a focus on developing the economy and focusing on targeting small and medium companies. These elements that unite us in a cross-cutting way could be better understood if we had a multiplying mechanism, and that every time an agency, AGM, BRB, or a credit corporation, how this intensifies economic growth.
Replacing imports, generating local jobs, and if that's followed by technological innovation and marginal gain of productivity, even better. Talking about financial cooperativism, one of the main features is the dual relationship of the entrepreneurs and cooperatives. When they get associated, they are members of the institution, so they direct the activities of that financial institution in their region. So that has a leveraging power for employment and income. So this is the virtuous spiral or cycle of financial cooperatives. We are the only financial institution in many of the places we act. We add a lot of value because we facilitate and provide a whole range of financial services so that the community can itself promote their savings accounts, investments, and taking of credit for management of receivables and so on. Talking specifically about our current work as BRB, a bank that has grown a lot recently in the pandemic, as it was narrated by André. We had an interesting experience by cooperativism in Brazil and registered by Sicoob, the third economic crisis we've had in which financial cooperativism registered actually a growth in their activities in the communities in the countryside. So in 2018, along with micro and small companies, we represented 95% of our associate legal personalities. We had 19 million credit operations, and at the end of 2021 we've reached 51 billion reais in credit operation. What does that translate into? It means that cooperativism doesn't close doors at a moment of difficulty, so we need to know our associates and businesses, whether they are SMEs or individual entrepreneurs, and work with microcredit in a very consultative manner so that they can have access to credit in the best way they can. When in the beginning of the pandemic we started rehearsing the anti-cyclical development actions, we launched our program and then our working capital just as Problem B. Right after that we had Preaki, and we've had the fourth greatest performance in the country with 4.5 billion reais in operations, actually in values, in volume. These government lines, the main feature is the guarantees. Beyond that, and celebrating our partnership as one of the main parties of financial cooperativism in Sebrae, we have adhered to FAMPI, and this allowed us in 2 years to overcome 1 billion reais in operations supported by FAMPI. And since last year, we are excited to see this partnership Finep and Sebrae, and we are already celebrating our partnerships with Finep to be strategic partners in the whole country. So just so you know, and to talk about something that looks like a paradox, Sicoob opened physical bank agencies. Well, you might think that is contradictory because there is so much technology nowadays in digital banking. Well, if you remember the situation, 336 municipalities, we are the only financial institution, so there are a lot of regions in the country that need a physical presence of the bank, especially for consulting and micro and small-sized enterprises. The face-to-face, the visits of the relationship managers, is very strategic. So Sicoob 5 years ago was the 6th largest network in Brazil for physical service, is now the 2nd. We are, and this is just a matter of time because we are at the disposal of the population wherever we need physical brick and mortar agencies. So we are also getting ready to act in the whole country, already preparing our credit lines in partnerships with our business partners, our consultants. Alessandro is in Sebrae Minas, and we're paying close attention to the 4,000 new Sebrae consultants that will arrive, and we want to count on their partnership so that our credit becomes more consultative in nature. So Francisco will close now due to our time constraints, and I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Luciano. Congratulations for your work. It's really impressive, an institution like Sicoob with such a great capillarity. We'll now hear from Bruno from BNB. Thank you. I'd like to greet Professor Francisco Gaetani, my fellow panelists, Márcia, Maia, and Diogo, the speakers who are watching us remotely. The Northeast Bank has a very robust operation in microfinance. We will address this as well, and I have some slides. If you can please put them up. In terms of the emergency action lines that we have adopted to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, well, we have several initiatives. It's very good to know that of this convergence. Many instances worked with that. Everybody is in the same track to make the micro businesses and small companies continue to be supported, and we need to bring them alternatives, always with that look of that outlook of having innovation and causing innovation to SMEs. We know that they will probably change their institutional model, so they need to work with innovation. The businesses need to be sustainable. Business of any size, not only big corporations and companies, need their businesses to be sustainable. They need to be sustainable for their own customers and to our customers. So when we finance anything, we always have these factors and bear them in mind. So in these terms, we have two big programs, Agro Friend and So AgroFriend is a guided credit program. It's very important to have a credit agent very close to the population. It needs to have synergy with several programs of the federal government. We are a bank of the federal government, and through the Bank of Northeast, many of the public policies are made possible through the bank. So we have the financing initiatives, and many resources are placed at the disposal of the bank to work with public policies. So I should also highlight in this line of thought for financing strategies, we've tried to create programs that would stimulate and foster innovation and bring about new technologies. Also, there is a very strong relationship with the cost. So if I have an operation of Agroamigos Sol, which we incentivizes entrepreneurs, even if they are SMEs, they start to think about cost reduction. We know that energy is becoming increasingly more expensive, and we have a program to bring the internet to rural areas. We know that this is a very important tool, even to the outflow of production. So we have a program for network inclusion, so that we can work with social networks and they can actually get their businesses running. In the same rationale, we have friendly credit. So we work with the urban line. Urban credit is planned to have all of the matters we mentioned: environmental dimension, innovation. We have credit agents that provide guidance. Sometimes they know how to do their own accounting, but they use paper and pen, and if they lose the book, they will lose the work. So we teach them how to use digital spreadsheets and so on, so that they would have more control over what they are selling and consuming in their businesses. So as the professor said, this is a very extensive program. Last year we have lent 12.5 billion reais in 2021. The target for 2022 is to reach 14 billion, and this is made through operations of about 3,000 reais. So you can imagine 12.5 million is a huge operation, but it's a consolidated operation. It's over 20 years old, and today it's a reference for the federal government. And it's very synergistic and has a perspective of being expanded in Brazil through other mechanisms and institutions. So just a few quick numbers. I've told you the average ticket at the pipeline is 2.5 million customers, 4 million in operations. We have a structure not only of logistics, but a structure of systems and people who already have a very high productivity rate, and to reach those numbers is very important. In this line of supporting people in through the pandemic, in that year we've created a number of solutions, not just extension of deadlines of debts, but those segments that were not as affected, we try to stimulate credit as well. So the solutions the Bank of Northeast has been doing, has been working with, is actually one role of the federal government, but it's very good to know that we have several other organizations working with this public, which is so important in our discussions. Thank you. Thank you, Bruno. Let's hear from Caetano Minchillo, Coordinator of Capitalization and Financial Services with Sebrae. He will be participating remotely. Well, we've had several interactions in the past. It's a pleasure to be here with so many good partners. I've had Luciano, Márcia, Diogo, and Bruno. All of your institutions work on behalf of small businesses, and they act uh, uh, very actively towards that. Sebrae positioned in terms of the approval of funds. We know that small businesses have difficulties of accessing credit, first because they have no history, secondly because they have no guarantees. So the guarantee fund was created in 2005. It created over 500,000 operations in this period. During the pandemic, we adjusted the design of the fund, and Sebrae managed to have 30% extra approvals in all of its history. So we reached the market share of operations for small businesses of around 3.5% offset by Sebrae, and this is quite significant. When we see this advance of this guarantee or endorsement and as a solution for small businesses, a lot of the interventions here regarding assisted and guided credit. Bruno also mentioned it, the importance of assisted and guided credits. When you have a guided credit, for when it's guided to SMEs, they think about, well, first if they need a credit, secondly at what volume, thirdly if they can pay back. This reflection can contribute for the continuation of companies and the reduction of default. So default rates are actually lower than what's divulged by Bacen in the general market. Today default is about 2.8%, and we attribute that to that reduction to the guidance.
If you look at the history of FAP during the pandemic, in assisted credit, just in the pandemic, we had 75,000 guidances, which is so significant, as I said, to mitigate risk. But more than that, for guiding and advising small entrepreneurs. The success of FAP in the pandemic, we had an insight. We can strengthen this and further leverage FAP with big partners. And for the first time in the history of Sebrae, we are creating a shared endorsement fund. And so we are creating two funds, one with Finep, 160 million reais, that will allow 1 to 2 million reais in credit, and these funds will be exclusively for innovation within Finep credit lines with assisted credit from Sebrae. And so André has already mentioned this, and I think that this is a very modern model of risk sharing, combining two big partners who can potentialize their resources very effectively. Alongside this, we are creating another shared endorsement fund that will allow 3.6 billion in credit, so that through our partner financial institutions of the BNDES, we are going to go from a FAP which has an endorsement potential of 18 billion up to 18 billion in percent. We are going to reach 25 billion in potential of endorsed operations endorsed by Sebrae. It's an important step considering all the success that we had during the pandemic and everything that was done during this period. It's a new opening of new paths for FAP. I'd like to comment here that the FAP with the 18 billion with agreements, it's with Caixa Federal, Bank of Brazil, and all the BRB, and they participate in the FAP with us. So the 20 agreements, 20 contracts. But our contract with Sicoob can reach where big banks don't reach. So very close to small businesses, and this has reflections in far before the cooperative system. We are able to reach micro entrepreneurs and in a way that is very beneficial for local solutions and local productive arrangements, and this brings cooperativism, makes it more important in the area of endorsement funds. And so we are thinking of conducting credit weeks with more advice, more participation of our credit agents. We are increasing, we're going to have more additional 4,000 agents in Brazil. This is going to require more assistance and more advice so that micro and small companies can adjust to this new moment, and opportunities will arise. The government itself is launching new programs to support micro and small companies, and this will bring about new opportunities for everything I said. Lastly, I want to highlight that we believe in local solutions through municipal funds, state funds. Just as today we work with BNDES and Finep, big funds that will benefit all members of the system that we are creating. We want to look also at local funds with a municipality, with a development agency, something targeting the local level and further customized for small businesses. So I'd like to thank also Professor Janete for the invitation. We are members of APD. We're very proud to share this panel with you, and you can count on Sebrae. Sebrae is here to support small businesses in whatever is possible. Our capillarity allows us to provide assistance to these entrepreneurs that can make these companies more lasting. They actually generated more than 70% of employment in the resumption of the economy. Thank you. Thank you, Caetano. I'd like to thank all participants for their presentations. We are going to now open to our live and online audience. We'll take questions and take rounds here. Well, it seems that the audience is still a little shy. So I have a question. We are facing a very unique situation. How are we doing regarding risk aversion? How, in this situation of risk aversion, how are you working with those that have difficulty taking risks? And also financial agents have liquidity problems. Some have access, there's also scarcity. So following the original order, beginning with Márcia, I want to thank everyone for their participation and also the sharing of experiences that President Janete, this helps us strengthen the national development system. So Professor Francisco, I'm here sitting with big institutions such as the Bank of the Northeast and others, Diogo, Bruno, André, Luciano, Gaetani, who were. So we work to strengthen our sector. We have a risk management, and we work strongly to mitigate these risks. And we work, well, the flagship of the development agency is our microcredit program with low levels of default, and we also work with the default bonus with zero interest rate, making microcredit more attractive. And so we provide 100% discount of interest rates for entrepreneurs that pay their debts. The good payers, they receive this bonus, and this reduces default. And also we provide a lot of very close monitoring and support. We have a network of collaborators, and I want to thank the collaborators and also our partners. We work in partnership with Sebrae, for instance, so that credit can be targeted and assisted. Also, municipal governments, CDLs, and associations such as the Industrial Association of Mossoró, and so we have full support and also the development agency of the state. I'd like to thank the governor for believing in our development agency and also supporting with funding and resources so that we can reach small entrepreneurs in the state of Rio Grande do Norte. Thank you, Márcia. Now, Diogo. Yeah, that's the big question then. How can we leverage the credit portfolio but receive the payment? Yeah, because we can make loans, but the money has to return. And so we render accounts to the Court of Accounts. And so what did the bank do in order to improve? We had to adjust credit rules because we had to welcome new customers, and so we took into account previous banking history. We trained our managers. So understanding the needs of customers and the best conditions for releasing credit to customers. Also, the extension of grace periods. As soon as the pandemic began, we had companies closing completely without cash flow, and so we had readapted our credit lines to this reality. The Solidarity Group also helped a lot with microcredit, and so we had 5 people, one endorsing the other and reducing risks and allowing the release of credit. And so the FUMP also helps a lot. And so how, as Caetano said, micro and small companies generally don't have guarantees to offer, but it was an important action. And also we created financial consultancy for companies and natural persons to help them understand the business. Micro and small entrepreneurs, there's a mix of, they mix natural person with companies and so on. And so it's important to educate them and provide consultancy to help them understand the business. And as André said, the concern of the bank was to leverage the portfolio, and micro and small companies is where we have more employability. We had to keep the wheel turning. Every time a company closes, someone loses their job, and it's a cycle that is hard to leave. And so these are the measures that we did initially to maintain ideal default levels for the market. André. Finep and credit operations of Finep for investment and innovation. And so small companies suffered a lot during the pandemic in general. And the aim was much more survival than investment. So we went through a very difficult time in credit for investment credit until 2021. But we do have good news. We have consistent recovery. In the first 2 months, we already did half of what we did in the whole of last year. So financing for technological innovation, very significant to maintain companies and jobs and society. Good to know, André.
Luciano.
This growth in our operations was very interesting. We were around 4% default in 2018, and we've dropped to 1.8% default. This reflects a great risk analysis model. But it's interesting to acknowledge that 52% of attempts to contract credit were successful in Sicoob. This is the biggest percentage in Brazilian finance industry. This means a predisposition not only towards risk but towards relationship. We have a director of a cooperative in Lajinha, in Minas Gerais, and he says that we need to have relationships and understand productive chains. Our job is not to reduce risk in productive chains, but understand the need to extend working capital, reposition investments, renegotiate operations, and provide government support, foster technology development. So we have high expectations for the 4.0 technology and expanding production capacity in agriculture and services.
So part of this justifies this drop in default, along with doubling the pipeline in 2 years. And for the future, for the next movements, as the next moves, well, we believe in the recovery. We believe that this conflict will not extend itself. As you said, the risk of inflation now has to do with demand. If we have a fast recovery of the income generation, because what we have seen so far is very much based on cost. So this has to be worked with. There's a paradox behavior in variable G of our GDP. So you cannot just stretch and go back. We monetize the economy when it's necessary, but we have to contract monetary offer and control the inflation with the Selic rate, which is the basic interest rate. And this is something that will probably unfold in 2022, and the institutions that work with funding and development cannot be apart from this problem. We have to work with those who generate most of the jobs, especially in the times of recovery. Thank you, Luciano. Very interesting, very good news. Bruno, yes, in our perspective, in our initial remarks, we are very optimistic. The tourism sector suffered a little and is starting to recover. In terms of the budget that we have for this year, we believe that the resources are enough for demands that are already coming up, and we might need to capture more resources, and guarantees are very important. We're thinking about creating alternatives to endorsement funds, and we will talk to Sebrae to check about that, and we are looking for external rating, because sometimes resources are cheaper abroad, so they can lend us cheaper rates, a lower rate. So we have $400 million for female entrepreneurship, and we are looking for alternatives, and that's basically it. Our world is quite dynamic, and we have been sufficiently intelligent to look for the market alternatives we need. Thank you, Bruno. Caetano? We in Sebrae believe in that as well. We are seeing formalization going up, and we believe in it will accelerate. Sebrae should try to contribute with an increase of formalization, especially with ME, which is micro individual entrepreneur, and it should no longer become a CPF but a CNPJ. Well, that is a business register. When we see the recovery much very based on SMEs, we believe in the simplification of legislation, which has advanced, and we can contribute for that to happen effectively. We really believe in the reduction of the asymmetry of information with assisted credit, and I believe that assisted credit can contribute so that small business people can have some direction as to the future of their businesses. Credit is one of the challenges, but with a well-structured consultancy, they can be well guided, and we really believe in partnerships. So we gave two examples that are very promising, one with Finep and one with the BNDES, and new partnerships are underway. I believe Sebrae has the proper capillarity and has full conditions of contributing the access to credit, especially for small businesses. And the Guarantee Facility Fund is a way of improving the appetite for credit, and this is our core business, and what we need to do now is to expand our partnerships and to build on the Guarantee Facility Fund, and to make more agreements and consortiums so that it would return to the market with new operations and starts to feed back. As Luciano said, we do believe in the recovery as well. I think that some sectors might suffer more than others, but we see a growth in the demand of many areas of the economy, and that might contribute for a stronger recovery. So we believe in that future. There are new things coming up like fintechs, and we have to take advantage of this new startups ecosystem, and we have venture capital growing in Brazil as well. Sebrae today is an ecosystem of 8,000 startups that we have been supporting throughout the country. We have Inova Amazonia, which is a program for the development of the Amazon region. We have several projects in which we can bring investment funds together and bring investors closer to the startups that need credit. And this credit is completely different from usual credit formats that we know. And Sebrae is very strong in this acceleration of credit to startups. So that's basically it. I believe that the future is promising, and I believe that we will have new lines of credit for micro and small-sized companies, and formalization and microcredit are also coming up strong, so that we could have more growth space. Thank you, Caetano. Any questions from the audience? The development agency of Piauí, we are very happy and honored to participate in this great event, and bringing back with me a lot of innovative and good experiences, so that the development agency is leveraged. My question is for Dr. Caetano from Sebrae. Well, Sebrae is a partner of ours today. In the state level and national level, my question is, we've started asking for the first credit lines, and if this deadline of 150 days that Sebrae determines, don't you think is too much time for this return to be of these operations to be paid back?
Obrigado, Anete. Eu vou chamar
Thank
as
you,
perguntas
Anete.
todas, depois a gente passa
I'll
pro pessoal para
get a
responder.
few questions and then we go around with the answers. Haroldo Machado, I work with partnerships with the UN system in Brazil. I'd like to thank you all for the interventions. You were all very good. My question has to do with the component of sustainability. The presentations were very interesting, but I missed the sustainability dimension. Many of business people in Brazil still observe they see environment aspect as a cost. So how to make SMEs in trying to integrate the three dimensions of sustainable development? Can think of sustainable development as a business opportunity instead of a cost? Thank you, Haroldo. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, so let's start with Caetano to respond to the reply to Anete, and then I'll ask you all to make your final remarks already. We have 2 video clips to show, and let's start with Caetano asking him to answer Anete and state his final remarks. Good afternoon. Indeed, you are our partners. Piauí Fomento is a partner agency. In our regulation, we have a maximum rate for paying back. So we have it automatized under development. So soon we will not have transit of paper for that. This is not a reality today. We still have calculation spreadsheets, and we have a number of manual procedures, and we need to have a safety deadline for the analysis and return, and it might also contain a requirement. So just to make you feel at ease, we're working with a new model, and we want to simplify the FUMPI regulation and as well as the guarantee. And so we need a digital process of paying or actually payment of guarantee, so that you can feed back into your channel for loans of Fomento Piauí. Regarding Haroldo's question, we have a number of examples. Inova Amazonia is one of them. It's a program dedicated to the sustainable management of the Amazon region, and all the projects of innovation go around it while respecting the environment and everything we want in terms of sustainable development, but we have countless examples around the country. This is a very broadly speaking about credit. And Sebrae has consultants capable of providing guidance to sustainable development, and it is absolutely a very important topic for us to have an investment condition without a default, and considering the continuation and perenniality of the company, but with sustainability. You are correct, we should have addressed it, but it was just a disclaimer that was lacking, but it is included in our consultancy and our model. Thank you, Caetano. I ask you all to make your final remarks, starting with Márcia. I'd like once again to thank ABDE for the opportunity of attending to this forum. Many important debates and panels. Sharing of experiences is very important. To the collaborators of the development agency, our employees, our partners, including Sebrae and others, in the development agency, and I would also like to add that we've had here In our development agency, an increase of 225%. So that was the increase in formalization, so businesses that went from the informal to the formal sector through May, which is the micro individual entrepreneur. So it was a very high increase because we're working continuously with formalization. And we have an internal survey. Businesses, when they are formalized, default is much lower than for informal jobs. So I'd like to say that an important factor for microcredit is the generation of employment and income. We managed to, well, more important than numbers, we achieved a lot of results and change and transformation that happens in the lives of these entrepreneurs, these people who have now access to credit, assisted credit, guided credit, and we had over 75,000 people directly impacted by access to credit, not to mention those who were impacted indirectly. So it's important to leverage people, think not only of economic development, but social development. With that, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity, Professor Francisco. And I'd like to say that the development agency will continue to fight so that we can have more funding and less risk, provide service to even more entrepreneurs that are looking for credit to strengthen their businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Márcia. Diogo. So, answering Haroldo, the bank created within our new advanced DFI program a specific credit line for solar energy. So we have this concern. Better rates, more competitive deadlines, so that we can advance in the credit line that we understand that is increasing. And it's important to support the productive sector. And depending on the project that is presented to us, we also request environmental impact that the project might have to check for the feasibility. And so these are the main lines in sustainability. And also want to thank you for the invitation and the participation of everyone in this panel, which has been very important discussion. And BRB is at your service. And when we began the pandemic, well, we are a social bank, and so we have new credit lines at the disposal of micro and small entrepreneurs so that we can advance the bank. We separated retail from wholesale, and so we have a board for each, we have management for each, and we have a specific microcredit to think 24/7 how we can advance and how the market is working and where we can improve and how we can reach the greatest number of people, where we can allocate our resources. And so it's important that we play this social role and also always focusing on employment. Every time we help a micro, small, or medium enterprise, we increase jobs and we make the wheel turn. This is the best way we can help with employability and dignity and helping the economy. So thank you, Professor Márcia, André, Luciano, Bruno, and Francisco. Thank you, Diogo. André. I want to talk about sustainability. It's, well, although we haven't strongly emphasized this as ABDE and Finep, and so ABDE promoted with its members an evaluation and diagnosis of the portfolio, and with very good numbers related to projects. projects taking into account the SDGs. So Finep has been working with IDB to evaluate and create methodologies for decarboning technological innovation projects. So been working also with IDB, and so this is about a diagnosis. As regards the actions, we have already mentioned in this panel actions related to the topic of sustainability, and I want to draw your attention to economic subvention actions in the Amazon, digital transformation, and also a financing line specific for sustainability for absorption of technology. Not only technological development, which is the heart of innovation, but also absorption of and mainstreaming of technology by companies so that they can reduce emissions, work on decarboning and other aspects. So, we mustn't forget to mention employment. The SDGs, one of them is dignified employment, decent employment. And in that, small companies play a key role. It's where there's the role of development agencies is very important in this area. Luciano. We have great expectations with first two partnerships. With BASA, with whom we are going to contribute to the Constitutional Fund of the North region. We already operate in partnership with other institutions that operate in the Center West, and we are also finalizing partnership with the Bank of the Northeast to contribute to work there, especially a focus on micro and small companies. Regarding sustainability, I've been talking a lot with my colleagues here at Sicoob that we have a lot of beautiful initiatives in our communities, but we need to disseminate this. Sicoob also 35 billion in rural credit, and Márcia has the experience that she told us of working closely with communities that take rural credit, and much of this is very modern, very advanced in terms of sustainability, in industry as well. And so we are at your service. Thank you at BDE. Janete, congratulations on the event. Count on us. What Finep and Sebrae told about proximity with innovation and partnerships needs to be replicated among ourselves, regional banks, development banks, Banco, BRB, cooperative financial system, Sicoob, Sicredi, Cressol, so that together we can try to achieve the acceleration that we hope for with micro and small companies. Thank you. Bruno. Haroldo. What you said is very important regarding sustainability. I'm going to speak very quickly. So the issue is to work with by targeting training, and we very often provide training, and we are all on a journey. Banks are on a journey, demanding this from customers, big companies as well, many of them on this journey, and the small businesses as well. So we are optimistic that humankind has this preoccupation. Everybody will move towards sustainable businesses beyond economic and financial aspects. I'd like to thank the invitation and say that the president of the bank was unable to attend, but he's at an event in Bahia he would have liked to attend. And thank you again, ABD, for the invitation to the Bank of the Northeast, my panel members, and also all the audience, live audience and online audience. Thank you, Bruno. Thus, we conclude our panel. We have 2 videos that we will present. And so, congratulations, Janete, ABD, and such an interesting panel looking at production of wealth and inclusion, so you are all to be congratulated. So I'll give the floor back to our coordination. 2 videos that we are going to watch now. 2 interesting cases. Banestes has a tradition in microcredit, more than 18 years of work, releasing 900 million reais, together with the ADES, the development agency, and Sebrae, and maintaining credit agencies in all our municipal governments in the state, working closely with communities and providing support and advice to those interested in the program. In the period of the pandemic, our operations were critical. Since March 2020, Banestes granted more than 122 million in emergency microcredit, benefiting 13,000 entrepreneurs. So, 0 interest rates, the endorsement fund created by the state, and so the lines that comprise our credit and micro and small companies with working capital and investment, and also individual micro entrepreneurs. Our credit promotes social inclusion, generation of employment, and local development. It is our commitment to democratize credit and promote social inclusion, financial inclusion of our society through our microcredit portfolio. My name is Humberto Mira. I am Director President of Desenvolve Alagoas. It's a pleasure to participate in the 7th edition of the Development Forum of ABD. Our agency allows for growth. Our portfolio reaches 45 million. Program was launched by the state government on the 12th of March 2021, completing its first anniversary on the 13th of March 2022. The program intends to work directly with the tourism segment, which was very much affected in our state, and a new program where the state government is responsible for paying interest rates and the opening rate, or the opening of the credit line, and so also for the individual micro entrepreneurs, and also 50% of the capital that was limited to 4,000 reais, minimum of 2,000, maximum of 4,000. Such a success that we provided more than 25 million credits to MEs and micro entrepreneurs of the tourist sector. The counterpart for the sector was the maintenance of jobs, and we were able to maintain 10,000 jobs, directly benefiting more than 40,000 people. And for the MEs, we provided more than 8,000 credit operations, reaching 24,000 people and families. So the program, I'm So the government was responsible for paying interest rates and half of the payment of the maize. And so it's a wonderful case in Alagoas. Alagoas is to be congratulated.